I wasn't going to talk about this on here, but I want to be honest. I have been having a really hard time with my mental health lately. So today, I am going to share what is really going on in my life. And because this is the Liz Moody podcast, I'm going to share exactly what I am doing about it that has helped. If you are going through it too, I hope this is helpful. And if you are not, I hope you can file this away for the future or just, enjoy getting to play voyeur into somebody else's life for a little bit. Welcome to the Liz Moody podcast, where we share science-backed tools and tips to empower you to live your best life. But we do it in a way that's fun, that makes space for vulnerability and the realities of our actual lives. And trust me, there is going to be a lot of vulnerability in today's episode. I hesitated to even share all of this because I recognize that in so many ways, I am incredibly lucky. I am aware of what's happening all over the world, all over this country. And I often deal with guilt that even with my immense privilege, I am dealing with mental health issues. And this is something that I tell you guys all of the time, and I've had to sit down and say it to myself numerous times over the past few months. Suffering isn't comparative. If you have ever told yourself that your pain doesn't count because somebody has it worse, please listen. Stop gaslighting your own pain. Suffering is not a competition. Your brain doesn't check a scoreboard before it decides whether to release stress hormones or activate your nervous system. From a mental health and neuroscience perspective, pain is pain, and your body responds accordingly. When your brain interprets something as threatening or overwhelming or emotionally painful, it triggers a real stress response. Cortisol floods your system, your fight or flight mode activates, and your entire nervous system reacts, even if somebody else's situation seems worse on the outside. Research clearly shows that it is not the situation itself that causes emotions, but how your brain interprets that situation. That is why two people can go through the same experience and have completely different emotional reactions. Your brain filters everything through your personal history, your past trauma, your beliefs, your fears, your emotional triggers. So if your system is responding, it is not fake, it is not dramatic, it is not overreacting. It is real. Your emotional pain is valid because your brain and your body are experiencing it as real, and understanding that, making space for that, is key to healing. So yes, gratitude is healthy and having perspective is important. I'm thinking of that Keeping Up with the Kardashians clip where Kim loses her diamond earring and they're on this fancy vacation in Bora Bora or something, and Kim is sobbing and Kourtney is like, "Kim, there are people dying." And yes, that is true. And we shouldn't lose sight of that perspective. And these things can coexist with our own pain. You can be grateful and still be struggling. You can have privilege and still have depression. Two truths can exist at the same time. When we stop invalidating our suffering by comparing it to other people, that is when we create the space that we need to actually heal. Okay, so here is what's been going on with me. First of all, as a little context, a little background, I have dealt with mental health struggles for pretty much my entire life. I was an anxious kid that became an anxious adult. I've been diagnosed with OCD and generalized anxiety disorder. And as many of you know, there was one point where my anxiety got so bad that I would have panic attacks whenever I left the house, which I have an entire episode about that I can link. The way I put it is I can be happy, I can be calm, but it's not something that comes particularly easily or naturally to me. It is something that I have to work at. This used to be something that I had more shame about because it's my job to help all of you guys live your best lives and feel your best. But I have realized along the way that it actually makes me better at my job. Having it not come naturally makes me so much better at testing things, at diving into research. And then, if something works on my mental health, that means that it really works. Everything started November of last year, so almost a year ago. A lot of you know this, but my cat, I'm going to try not to cry as I say this, my cat was diagnosed with cancer really suddenly. And this is like my soul cat. This is my baby. And this is really dumb, but I had genuinely convinced myself that she was going to live forever. Like when I pictured myself as a grandma sitting on the porch, I pictured her there which I get is really, really stupid. A lot of people were like, well, she was 15. You got a really long time with her. And I'm like, yes, that is true. I'm so appreciative of that time with her. But also, I had 15 years of her being by my side every single day to develop this deep, amazing relationship with her. So we go through this wild ride of a month where the vet's basically like, it's cancer, it's all over her body, it's bad. And then another vet was like, it's not so bad, she's going to live for another year or even more. And then she died like a week after they said that. And it was awful. It was the worst month of my entire life. I've never felt physical pain in my body like that. I've never cried like that. And I have a girlfriend who is a famous psychiatrist, and she thinks that this loss triggered my re-experiencing of a loss that I had as a kid, where when I was 2 years old, my mom was in a horseback riding accident, and she was basically there one day, and then she was in the hospital for months in a coma, and you can't explain that to a 2-year-old. It was this big, horrible event in my life that eventually led to my parents' divorce, and it defined my childhood. And while I've gone to therapy a lot to deal with various things around it for years, there are also still a lot of lingering effects. And my friend thinks that the loss of Bella suddenly being gone sort of re-brought that back to life in my brain in a certain way, which resonated with me. Okay, so Bella dies and Christmas is just like grim. And then in January, Zach and I froze embryos, which we recorded 2 episodes about that process and how we decided whether or not we wanted kids. And we'd been planning this for a long time and scheduled it for January. And while everything went really well, and I'm absolutely obsessed with my doctor, it was just a lot, especially coming straight from this place of grief. It's so hard to pick out whether my depression around that time was from the hormones or the grief or the combination, or maybe there was some sad mixed in. It was January, but I just felt so low. It was hard to get out of bed. I felt disconnected from Zach, which is a really weird thing to feel when you're taking this big step towards your future together. And then we decided to give up our house. Everybody told us to wait, to not make any big decisions while we were grieving, but the house just felt so unbelievably sad to us. I kept looking around the corners for Bella and she wasn't there, and it was where she actually died, and it just felt awful. And at that time, we were planning on going to Europe and New York for a lot of the summer, so we were like, we'll save on the rent money and we'll get a new place in September when we are back. So we packed everything into storage. We went to New York for a month. But when we came back, Zach's dad, who had been dealing with some health things, had taken a turn for the worse. We knew in our guts that we should cancel our Europe trip, that we should stay around. And that was ultimately the right decision because he ended up passing, and we needed to be here to spend that time with him, to spend that time with the family. I'm so glad that we were able to spend that time with him. Yeah, but he passed. That happened in July. And by the time we started looking for a place again, the AI boom had happened in the Bay Area. All of these people were flooding the market for these just very high paying jobs. And every single home was just unbelievably expensive. And look, I feel really lucky and really proud about the living that I have been able to make in this career. But there are just numbers that feel ridiculous to pay for what you're getting. But there were people lining up around the block to pay those numbers. And I am a huge space person. Like, being in a space that feels lovely and cozy and expansive massively changes my mood. And we were touring these like grim dungeons that landlords are charging a small fortune for. So we've been bouncing around, we've been staying with family, we went back to New York, we spent some time in Colorado, all of these things that, again, I feel really, really lucky to be able to do. But I also feel really unmoored. I feel unsettled. I want a home. I want a daily routine. For my anxiety, when I had agoraphobia, building structure into my life is really what tipped my mental health back to a truly positive place. My anxiety is helped so much by structure, and having that just be gone has been really, really hard. There have been a few other things that have been contributing to my mental health, my poor mental health lately as well, that I won't get into here just because there are other people involved and I want to be fair to them. But the last thing that I will mention is that I am 39 years old, and this age just feels hard in a way that I do not see people talking about. There's so much pressure to slide into this new era of life, especially if you're interested in having kids. And I feel like there's a huge part of me that just is not ready for any of that. I don't feel old enough for any of this. And yet somehow I am also almost too old, which seems ridiculous. Like my brain cannot fathom that. And I also feel like there's a lot of conversations around the physical parts of aging. And we're having these really big cultural conversations about things like perimenopause, which I think are so important. Women's health issues are historically hugely underfunded, under-researched, undervalidated. So I want to be very, very clear that I'm really, really glad that people are finally talking about these things. And because we love creating space for ands on this podcast, I feel like this is a podcast of ands. It has also made me so scared of my 40s, which is a time that I had previously not been scared of at all. I'd pictured being in the prime of my life, of my career, all of that. And now I'm like, am I going to be up all night, unable to sleep? And again, we are having these conversations about like hormones and hot flashes, but I don't think we are having enough conversations about the psychological challenges of aging, of being treated differently by the world, of feeling like you look different. Sometimes I think about the fact that no matter what, I will never live my 20s or my 30s again. And my heart seizes up, my chest gets palpably tight. It has been a hard season. It has been one of the hardest seasons that I have had in a while. And again, I am cognizant of the fact that I'm on the internet and I have an enviable job. And I'm sure people will go to comment threads to talk about how I should not be complaining. And I don't want to get on here and just whine, but I do want to share honestly with you this amazing community that I have here. And I want to share so that if you are going through anything similar, you know that you are not alone. And also because I feel like podcasts, like social media, all of these types of things make it really hard to show the messy parts of life. I never lie online, but it's also really hard to show everything because you want to protect other people in your life. You want to not exploit your own sadness or use it for content, which just feels so disrespectful to the very real feelings involved. And also, life is complicated. In the middle of all of this, I had some of the biggest career highs of my life. I signed with my dream literary agent. I started working on 2 books that I am deeply passionate about. My podcast hit #1 on the health charts, which is all because of you guys. It's insane. So one of the reasons that I am sharing this episode is to show you that all of this can coexist. I have cried myself to sleep and I've gotten up and I have conducted some of the best interviews that I have ever done, conversations that I have been so proud of. We are so many things all at once, and that's one of the things that makes the human experience so beautiful. And of course, one of the main reasons I wanted to share all of this with you is because I want to be real about what's actually been helping me feel better. So if you're going through something, you can feel better too. You know I love an action step, so here's what I do when I'm really in the thick of a mental health spiral. Yes, there's what science says, which I'm totally into clearly, but there's something powerful about hearing what real people actually use and what actually works in real life. So I hope some of these tools help you, whether you need them now or you know somebody who's going through it and they could really use this. Feel free to send it to them or save it for yourself in case you need it later. The very first thing that I focus on is covering my bases, the foundational stuff. As somebody who has dealt with mental health challenges for most of my life, I have learned that the simplest things can make the biggest difference. So when I feel my absolute worst, I double down on checking off the basics. Am I hydrated? Did I get outside for my circ walk? Did I move my body today? Ideally, that movement is a bit more active, walking a lot or doing some strength training. Personally, strength training has made a huge difference in my mood. Like the day I do it, I will feel notably mentally better than if I don't do it on that day. I also start every single day with 2 huge glasses of water with electrolytes. I make sure that I'm eating protein. I'm getting my veggies. I am fueling my body instead of skipping meals or grazing on whatever is easiest or just eating carbs, which is the main thing that I want to do to comfort myself when I am sad. But this is the key part. I do not wait to feel motivated. When I'm feeling low or depressed, motivation just does not show up like at all. So I do not rely on it. I rely on my routine. I build structure around these habits. I create accountability because I know that I cannot fully trust myself in these times in my life. My morning routine starts with the water, and then I get outside, even if it's just one loop around the block. I don't have to do more than that, but I do have to do that. And then I head to the gym at the same time every single day. And I have been planning as much as possible to go with friends or to go with Zach because honestly, I am way more likely to flake out on myself than on somebody else. That accountability makes all of the difference. The way I see it, we are basically just big plants. We need sunlight, we need water, we need nutrients. If we do not give ourselves those things, we start to wilt no matter how much inner work or therapy or mindset stuff that we're doing. So this is me watering the plant first. And in general, I'm leaning on these little routines to create structure for my life, which I said this earlier, but structure really is one of my top tools for alleviating anxiety. So I don't have the structure or the routine in my own home right now, but I can wake up at the same time. I can go for a walk every day. I can work out at the same time. I can read at the same time, and I can do it every single day. When I feel my lowest, I tend to focus on all of the things that are out of my control. And then I spiral about how I lack the power to make my life better, which is the opposite of what our brains need. This is what I remind myself of when everything feels out of control. The next time that you feel overwhelmed by everything going on in the world, remember that study after study after study has shown the mood-enhancing effects of having agency. And we really do have so much agency, but it's about shifting your focus from what's out of your control to the things that are in your control, the things that you have agency over. And that feeling of agency is going to transfer over. It's like a magic trick, but one that's been backed by centuries of psychology research. Feeling agency over little things unrelated to whatever you are actually scared or depressed over, rewires your brain in a way that makes you feel less scared, more empowered, less depressed about the bigger things, the things that were the real problem in the first place. So if this is you right now, ask yourself, what agency do you have? Again, it does not need to be related to the actual reason that you do not feel good. If you are going through a breakup, your agency does not need to be around relationships. Maybe your agency is helping your friend with a work problem. Maybe it is cleaning your house. Maybe it's volunteering. Any agency is going to create this chain reaction in your brain that's going to make you feel so much better. So maybe I can't bring Bella back. Maybe I can't bring my father-in-law back. I can't solve these other problems in my life or in the world at large, but I can drink a glass of water. I can help a friend out. I can declutter my bathroom drawer. I can do little things that give me a sense of agency, a sense of power in my life. And then that feeling is going to rewire my brain and it's going to transfer over. Another thing that I am doing is forcing myself to reach out to people because I tend to hobble away when I'm feeling sad, and then that makes me feel even sadder. So I've been trying to share what's going on in my life, what I'm really feeling with my friends, even if it makes me feel ashamed and even if it's scary, especially during those times. Because just that act of sharing has taken so much of the shame away, and it's taken so much of the teeth, the power out of my emotions. We are not designed to handle these things alone. When we talk about how we feel to other people, or we even just write about it in a journal, it moves those emotions from our limbic system, the part of the brain that's all about raw feeling and survival, into our prefrontal cortex, which is the part that helps us make sense of what's happening. Putting your feelings into words reduces your activity in your amygdala, which is your brain's fear center, and it increases activity in the areas that regulate emotion. So basically, the moment that you name what you are feeling, your brain starts to calm down. I'm also really trying not to scroll because when I feel like shit, I get extra comparative and extra jealous of what I see online. And I am friends with all of these influencers. I have been a full-time content creator for 5 years myself. I have a front row seat to how much of what we see online is just a tiny snippet of reality at best, and an intentional full-on distortion of reality at worst. And I still fall right into the trap. It is so hard not to. So I've been trying to pick up books or read and watch movies or TV shows instead of scrolling. And then also because I'm honestly terrible at just not scrolling, it is a habit that I'm still working on. Instead of fully not scrolling, lately I have been trying to intentionally redesign my feed so that it actually serves me, so it supports me where I am at and with what I need right now. One shift that I've made that's really helped with my fear of getting older is I have started consciously following women in their 40s and beyond who are thriving. Women who are honest about the realities of aging, the highs and the lows and the unexpected beauties in it, who are showing that you can live a big and joyful and meaningful life as you get older. Because the stories that we consume shape the stories that we tell ourselves. And I want to give my brain examples of what's possible so that I can build a narrative that I actually want to grow into. I had Dr. Becca Levy from Yale on the podcast, and one thing that she said really stuck with me. People who hold positive beliefs about aging live, on average, 7.5 years longer. And the number one predictor of those positive beliefs, having positive aging role models. That clicked for me. So I have made it my personal mission to find those expanders, the people who show me what's possible as I get older, the people who help me rewrite that story that I'm telling myself. And it's been really helpful, which just shows you that sometimes the things that make us the most anxious are actually pointing us toward the next area of growth, which is really how I'm trying to see all of this. And then finally, and this part is huge, I am reminding myself that this isn't forever. When I feel my worst, I have a tendency to think this is going to be the rest of my life. And I have been working to actively remind myself of the other times that I've felt like this, and that in every single one of those times, I have gotten out of it. That's why this episode isn't a long list of tips. I don't need a long list of things to add to my to-do list. I don't need to create more stress or more pressure for myself. My job is to take gentle care of myself during this season, to support myself the best that I possibly can, knowing that time is ultimately going to be my biggest healer, and my job is to support myself as that time passes. I feel really vulnerable sharing all of this. I hope it lands well, and if it's helpful to even one of you, I will be really glad that I put it out there. This podcast is about sharing science to help change your life, but it's also about meeting ourselves where we're really at and creating space for vulnerability and real emotions. So if that sounds good to you, I would love it if you would join our little family, if you would hit that subscribe or follow button. We have new episodes on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube every Monday and Wednesday. Mondays are short solos with tips and stories from me like this episode. And then Wednesdays are longer episodes where I sit down with one of the world's leading experts to dive deep into a subject. You can also find all of my favorite partner codes, from skincare that I swear by to the creatine and fish oil that I take every single day, at lizmoody.com/codes. Supporting our brand partners keeps our show completely free for you, and it allows you to save money on products that I have vetted, that I truly believe in. I love you guys. I am rooting for all of us, and I will see you on the next episode of the Liz Moody Podcast. Oh, just one more thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, a psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional.